You get a line, I'll get a pole, honey. You get a line, I'll get a pole, babe. You get a line, I'll get a pole, and we'll go fishing in the crawdad hole, honey, baby mine. Hello, YouTube. Rick Stivers here with YoungMartin'sReels, and today's project is going to be this Pflueger International 531 spincast reel, and this thing looks a little rough. However, I will say it looks a lot better than it did when I got it. When I got it, it did have this nut, but it didn't have the handle. It was like this. Okay? And when I took and attached a handle to it, it developed a problem that I've encountered in the past with many of these star drag spincast reels. And that is that when you would tighten down the handle, then you would tighten down the star drag, and you would try to turn the handle, what would happen is the star drag would actually unscrew and the rotor would not turn. Well, I've got that part fixed, okay? We're a little bit close because you guys are going to end up out of the picture. Okay, let's bring it. There you go. All right. So, what was wrong with it? That's what we're going to get into. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove the rotor. That was another thing. This rotor was jammed on because somebody had tried to unscrew it off of there and had kind of mangled up the square inside here. So I've kind of hammered that down and fixed it a little bit. And next thing, we're going to take this E-clip off, set it over to the side, and then we'll take the spool off. And then we're going to be cleaning all that old line off of there. Okay, and now, there we go. That looks pretty good. Now, the other thing is, this, if you watch, the axle shaft comes out and it locks in place right there. Okay, and when you rotate this, the axle shaft drops back down. Well, why does it do that? Well, if you look right here, there is a bevel cut in this shaft, and it's got a nice straight cut right here. Now, what happens is when this drops down, it comes down, it lands. Actually, there's another one down here. It lands on this spring right here. You see this spring? Okay, we're going to take that spring out right now, or in just a minute. And what happens is when this rotates around, it slides past that spring and drops down. Well, if you take the spring off, we'll take it out the backside in a minute. But if you take that spring off, then there's nothing there for it to back down on anymore. Okay, so we're gonna take I don't want to bend that spring out of shape, and it will come right off with that back, but it can't go back yet because this is still on. So let's go ahead real quick and remove the side plate. Okay, now we can slide this axle shaft on back like that, and notice the spring just fell out. I'll set that over to the side, and we'll set the axle shaft over to the side. And now we're going to come to what was the problem with this reel. Okay, when you try to wind it, what would happen is it would unscrew the drag. Now, why was it doing that? Well, if you let's go ahead and take it apart. Right here, and there comes the new handle I gave it, and now we'll unscrew the drag nut. Take that off. We'll take the drag spring off, and now we're going to slide this out the end. Okay, there we go. There's the axle shaft. Okay, and what was happening is this part right here is the only part that was turning. So when you turn the handle like this piece would turn, but as it was turning, it was causing the drag star to unscrew because it was just screwed right up against the frame. All right. Now, the cause of all the trouble, let's go ahead and take the anti-reverse claw out of here. There we go. And now, here's the problem. See this sleeve right here that I'm pushing in and out? Can you see that? That sleeve was frozen into the body right here due to old grease. It had frozen in place so it wouldn't rotate. Now this piece is supposed to rotate inside that frame. Okay, it goes on like this. Then goes the spring. Also, this piece was installed upside down. Somebody was trying everything they could to try to make it work. Okay, all right. Now what happens is when you've got it like this and you rotate this, okay, this sleeve rotates inside the body here. So that when this turns, all this turns together. Well, if this piece cannot turn, if it's locked in place, let's see if we can simulate that. Let's try to grab hold of it and hold it in place. Okay, if it's locked and can't move, then as this rotates, well, the body's not in place. Then when this turns, it would tend to cause this to unwind because it's up against the body right here. See where that paint scraped off? That's where that was rubbing and that was causing this to unscrew. Okay, so how do we fix it? Well, what I had to do is I needed to be able to get that sleeve out. So I took and set this body down inside my vise with this in between the jaws. I didn't clamp it down because I didn't want to mar up the paint. Okay, I set it down inside there. And then I took this nut driver. And if we go ahead and take this back apart, okay, you will see that this nut driver is just slightly smaller than what that sleeve is. Okay, and I took that and I used it with that in the vise to drive that sleeve down and out of the body. Once I had it down out of the body, I was able to go in, clean out the old dried up grease, and clean it up off of here. This piece was easy. I just used my wire wheel on my grinder to clean all the grease and corrosion off of this. This piece was a little more difficult. I had to take and wind up a piece of sandpaper, roll it up, slide it inside, and turn it a few times to clean that out of there. Okay? But that broke all that loose and got it free and running again. Now, we've taken this thing almost completely apart. What we haven't taken apart is the crankshaft assembly. So if we look over here, we're going to slide this apart. There is our anti-reverse cog right there. And you looked at the direction that it goes. Okay, it goes so that it ratchets this way. Okay, and it also has a drag washer on it. And then on the other side of here, we will find another drag washer. So we're going to clean all those up, get all that excess grease off of those so that the drag washers can perform their function and actually present a little bit of friction. So we're going to clean all those parts up. The other thing that we have here is this cap looks really atrocious. It had a big dent right here, and I have done the best I can. I'm not a super smooth guy when it comes to this. What I really needed was something nice and rounded on the inside that I could put in there and tap. And instead, I ended up creating quite a few little dimples on there. I probably should sand those dimples out, but I'm not. Well, I'm not going to try to tout this as being an all original reel. I just want it to look nice again. So we're going to be sanding all this off, and I'm going to repaint it. This time I picked up this Rust-Oleum metallic paint and primer all in one, and the color I chose was dark cherry because I think that's about as close as I'm going to get with a rattle can to what was on there. So I'm going to get off of here for a few minutes. How am I going to clean this up? Well, I'm going to use my Dremel tool to strip this off. I could put it in my parts cleaner and it would probably strip all this off, but I'm not going to wait around for that. Instead, I'm just going to use this wheel. It's a Scotch-Brite kind of wheel. And I'm going to go around, clean all this paint off. And when I get all the paint off, I'll come back and repaint it. And hopefully at the end of the video, you'll see a freshly repainted cap. All right? Okay, I've cleaned this main gear up. And my concern with it is that the surface is kind of eat up with some corrosion. So I know most of you can't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway, just so that you know that it would kind of be the right thing to do. You could put this together like this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out and chuck it up in my lathe and put some sandpaper to this and see if I can't true these surfaces up, this front and this back. And I'll be back in a minute to show you. All right, that was kind of fun. I contemplated actually cutting the surface down to eliminate all the pitting that's in there completely, but I'm afraid that it would make this gear too thin and cause it to prematurely fracture, so I chose not to. I left some of the pits there, just kind of did the overall smoothing and with sandpaper so that it would glide better. And now I'm going to go back to cleaning all the rest of the parts. Okay, the part that I was trying to show you earlier about this clip right here is when this is in there, inside there, it sits like this. When you push it forward, it pushes up like that and it'll lock right there. And then when it rotates, it'll drop on back down. This top one up here just keeps the axle shaft from coming out altogether. So, but that's its purpose in life. But this is what allows you to push the button and the rotor goes up and locks. Okay, when you rotate it, it's going to drop back down. Okay, and let's go ahead and see if we can put this thing back together now. Okay, we're going to start off with the crankshaft, and the crankshaft has the drag washer installed on it. Now, you don't have to take that off if you don't want to. As a matter of fact, though, let's wipe underneath it. But a lot of times, that drag washer will be adhered to the crankshaft, in which case it doesn't hurt if you just leave it there. Just leave it on there. Okay, it won't hurt a thing. Okay, we're going to take that and slide it in here. We're putting no lubrication on there. Okay, that has to hold by tightening down the grip, and that's what clamps this down. That and your drag washer on the other side, those two. Okay, I'll slide those together, and that, so when that's squeezed together using this drag knob, pushing against this spring, that's going to tighten that into a clamping motion and give you your drag. All right, now we'll set that down. Over here we have our barrel assembly that's going to go in, our sleeve that's going to go inside the case right here, like so, and that will turn inside there, and that's what the crankshaft is actually going to turn on that. Okay, this part will only turn inside that when drag is being slipped. Okay, so now we're going to come back, we're going to put some oil on the crankshaft, and before we slide that in, we need to put our anti-reverse claw back in. Sits on that post right there, I think. Oh, it's on the post. Okay, there we go. And then we'll slide this in. Okay, goes in like that, and you will be able to rotate it forward. Make sure to slide that sleeve up all the way in there. You should be able to rotate it forward, but not backwards. Okay. Now, I'll tell you what, let's do, before we slide that in the rest of the way, let's go ahead and put a drop of oil on that anti-reverse claw so that it will continue to function well for years to come. Okay. Now we'll put it back in. Slide the sleeve in. There we go. Anti-reverse is functioning well. Now comes our spring washer, and that goes on with these wings. If you look, these wings, see how it's folded? Okay. Well, those two wings face upward towards the drag star. Okay, and they're going to ride on this lip of the drag star. So this goes on with this boss side facing down. Okay, tighten that down. There's our drag. Okay, now the axle shaft rotates well. Okay, now what we may end up doing, we may decide that we want to shim this. And if we do, the place that we're going to shim it at is going to be right here between this gear and that sleeve. That will be where we'll add a shim if we determine that we need to add one. I don't know yet that we will, but we may decide we want to. Okay, spring washer back on, drag star back on. Okay. And now we're going to put, first off, we're going to put this D-clip back in. And this thing simply fits in by going, the flat side goes right there up against, and then this wraps around like that. And that holds it in place. That's all that does. It's that simple. Okay. And when this slides in, that'll slide past that spring. And when it gets on that lip right there, that's what's going to hold it locked in place. Okay. We're going to put some oil on the axle shaft itself. Then we're going to grease the pinion. We'll go ahead and slide that in. And we'll get it to go past. There we go, and that's locked it in place. Now it won't come back out unless you undo that D-spring. Okay, it's locked in place. Okay, now if you push it all the way forward, it should lock out like it did right there. And when you rotate it, it'll drop back down. Okay, let's go ahead and grease up the main gear. And we want to make sure to keep the grease. Okay, I got a phone call that shut my camera off, so we had to come backtrack and start this over again. And so we're going to go ahead and put the axle shaft in. We have oiled the axle shaft. We have greased the pinion. And let's go ahead and put some grease on the back side of this, where the pinion slides up and down. And we'll go ahead and slide this in. Okay, and it's probably going to want to stick like this. So what you do is you go ahead and just rotate the main gear a little bit like this, and it should rotate forward, and then it's going to lock into place, which it did. And now it won't come back out. See that there? It's locked into place by that spring. And if you push it all the way forward, hey, then it locks in the outward position and will not drop back down until you rotate it. There you go. Okay, got that done. Let's go ahead and we're going to put the button, the push button, set that in place back here like this. I'm going to put the side case in place like so. We're going to try the best we can to line this screw up with that hole on the other side. And let's see if we've got it lined up. If we did, then it will start screwing in immediately, and it did. Good. Let's go ahead and put this one in. Okay, it's got that done now. We've got the spool here, and the spool still has line on it. I'm going to strip the line off of it in a little bit, but right now I want it on there so I can test the drag. Okay, and if you notice, there's a hole in the bottom of the spool right here, and this hole, that post right there, is what's going to fit into that hole. All right, so we'll set this in. There we go. It locks into place. And this washer's a little bit bent. Let's see if I can straighten it up just a little bit. It wants to kind of flare out and go everywhere when you try to put it on. There we go. And we'll set that in place. And lock it in place like that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is push forward on the button so that we lock the axle shaft out. And we're going to set the rotor back in, lining up the flat that's on there with the flat that's on the axle shaft, like that. And then we'll tighten down the nut. Okay, with that done now, when we rotate the handle handle's not on yet, but when we rotate it, there you go, it drops down like it's supposed to. Let's go ahead and install the handle. Like I said, this is a handle that came out of my dad's stash, and it may be an original Pflueger handle, it may not be, I don't know. It looks very similar to what I see on this reel on eBay. So it might be the correct handle, it may not be. Okay, that's as far as we can take it for the moment, because we need to get hold of the, don't do that. There we go. We need to get hold of the cover and get it put on, but it still needs to go into the oven. So it needs to bake first. All right, as is usually the case, I did not do a perfect job at repainting this. If you look at it, you can see some fish eyes in it here and there. But overall, I think it looks a lot better than it did before it started. I did wipe it down with acetone before I sprayed it, but it still didn't quite do exactly what it was supposed to do. Although, I think it does look better than it did before. So, anyway, let's go ahead and run this line through this and install it. I did put this in the oven and bake it for about an hour at 220. And so the finish is pretty well baked on. Feels good. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, there's our drag. Okay, let's try tightening it up. Oh yeah, it's much tighter. Let's try tightening it some more. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm pleased with that. Everything's working as advertised. It's not a perfect paint job, but overall, it'll look pretty good sitting over in the cabinet. I could have probably touched up the black here and here, but that's all original, so I didn't want to mess with that too much. This was just so far gone, I had to do something with it. Let's see. The dent overall doesn't look that bad where I hammered that out. But let's see if this side looks better. Yeah, that looks better coming down. All right. So there you have the Pflueger International 531 spincast reel. And it's been repaired. It's up and functional. It needs new line on it now, although I'm probably just going to strip the line off of it and put it over in the cabinet. But I hope you liked the video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the dislike button. Tell me what you didn't like about it. For now, that's Rick Stivers with Young Martin's Reels, signing out.